Are you looking to call Cincinnati, Ohio your home? Well, in this video, we're going to cover some of the good, the bad, highlighting some of the pros and the cons of what it's like to live here in Cincinnati, Ohio. We're going to cover everything you need to know about Cincinnati, Ohio living so that you can make an informed decision when you're purchasing your next home. I've lived in Cincinnati my whole life, and I have a pretty good understanding of the good and the bad that Cincinnati has to offer. So stick around until the end of this video, especially if you want to know some of the benefits of living in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm Angela Evans with Cincinnati Ohio Living, and whether you're looking to move in 9 days or 9 months, go ahead and use the contact information in the description box below. I would be so excited to help you make a move here in amazing Cincinnati. I'm going to be posting new videos every single week, so if you want to stay up to date on the Cincinnati, Ohio market, go ahead and hit subscribe and tap the bell for notifications so you can be the first to know about what's going on in the current market here in Cincinnati. So before I get into the pros and cons of Cincinnati, Ohio living, I'm going to go ahead and just give you kind of an overview of the area when I'm talking about the greater Cincinnati area and some of the populations. Okay, so one of the things I want to point out when we're talking about the greater Cincinnati area, we are generally talking about kind of anything inside this 275 loop. And that is one of the major highways that actually goes all around Cincinnati here, as you can see. It does include parts of southeastern Indiana and northern Kentucky. So the Cincinnati Metropolitan area is also what's known as the tri-state area or greater Cincinnati. So the Ohio counties that you're going to have included in the tri-state area are Hamilton County, Butler County, Warren County, Claremont, Brown, Clinton, and then in Kentucky, you have the counties like Boone, Kenton, Campbell, Grant, Pendleton, Bracken, Gallatin, Mason. Okay, and then in Indiana, the tri-state area includes the counties Dearborn, Franklin, Ohio, and Union. So Hamilton County is generally the main county that we're talking about in Cincinnati. Okay, so the Cincinnati, Ohio metro area has a population of about 2.2 million. It covers an area of about 4,500 square miles. So that puts us behind cities like Dallas, Austin, Houston, Texas, Charlotte, North Carolina, Detroit, Michigan, Baltimore, Maryland, and St. Louis, Missouri. According to the last U.S. Census, here are a few stats on the greater Cincinnati metropolitan area. The median household income is about $75,000, according to the last U.S. Census. The average travel time to work looks like it's about 25 minutes. 72% of those which drove alone to work. Small percentage carpooled, and even less used public transportation, bicycle, or walked. So the median value of homes in the greater Cincinnati metropolitan area is to about $248,700. The total land space that Hamilton County covers is about 405 square miles. So of that 4,500 square miles that the greater Cincinnati area covers, only about 405 square miles is the Hamilton County area. And then the Hamilton County population of that 2.2 million is about 830,000. I'm going to start out with some of the cons of living in Cincinnati. Number one of which is the weather. The weather in Cincinnati can be really, really unpredictable, with hot and humid days, cold, snowy winters, and occasional severe weather like thunderstorms, tornadoes, things of that nature. But on the flip side of that, you do get to experience a drastic change in the seasons, which can be really beautiful to watch. One of my favorite times of year is actually right now in the spring when all of the flowering trees, are beautiful pinks and purples. It just makes you realize like, oh, everything's coming to life again after the cold, dreary, dark winter. While it's not dark all the time like you would get up in Alaska, we do have a time change here in Cincinnati. We're in the Eastern Standard Time Zone. And so every spring, we spring forward an hour, and every fall, we fall back an hour. So if you are not from this time zone, that might be something that you're going to have to get used to. There's been talk over the years that they're going to do away with that. Nothing has ever happened. So it's just something that us Cincinnatians have come to know and expect, and we usually don't look forward to falling back, even though it means we get an extra hour of sleep. Not really. Sometimes it feels like that, but it gets dark a lot earlier. It's usually getting dark before people get home from work at 5 o'clock, and that can be a really down time of year for some people. But then on the flip side, in the spring, when it springs forward, staying lighter longer, the days are getting longer, and like I said, everything starts blooming again, which is a really beautiful time of year. On that note of blooming, however, we are in the Ohio River Valley, and people with seasonal allergies sometimes can really struggle during this time of year when everything starts blooming and all that pollen and everything is in the air. I've had a few springs in my life that were pretty brutal. So just something to be aware of. If you're somebody that does struggle with seasonal allergies, they're probably going to be pretty heightened here in this area that we're in Cincinnati. If you're from the Midwest already, you know that we kind of have several fake springs, we'll call it. We'll think really early on, February, March, oh, the weather's, we'll get a 70-degree day. It's beautiful outside, everyone's outside. And then a couple days later, it's back to 40 degrees and raining, or maybe even snowing. So us Midwesterners will get a little excited, and then we're back to winter again. So just something to know that, sometimes the change in the seasons is unpredictable here. So another con that we're going to talk about here in Cincinnati is the traffic. Like many cities, Cincinnati experiences traffic congestion. Most of the time, you're going to find this congestion during the rush hour in the morning, 7 to 9 a.m., in the evening, 4 to 6 p.m. You have people, because we are the tri-state area here, the greater Cincinnati area, you have people traveling to work in downtown Cincinnati from Indiana, from Kentucky, from northern Cincinnati. So depending on, which direction you're going at what time, you might run into quite a bit of traffic some days. And obviously, like most cities, there's always perpetual construction going on the highways. So as you may have guessed, some of the really bad traffic is going to be around the downtown Cincinnati area. There's a few bridges that connect Cincinnati to Kentucky here. And depending on which way you have to go, one of the most congested areas is going to be here along the 71-75 connection that goes over the Brent Spence Bridge. You'll also have traffic here where 71 and 471 go over the 471 bridge. That's the Big Mac Bridge, big yellow bridge. So usually, because that bridge has so many more lanes, it's not quite as bad as the 71-75 bridge, but again, it all just depends on the day, on the weather, if it's really rainy that day, if it's snowy. But as you'll see here, like the two main highways that come down into downtown Cincinnati are 75 and 71. Okay, so they both come downtown here, and they merge right over here, right before going over that bridge. And that is generally you have only 2 lanes and merging from 2 different highways. It just kind of makes it move really slow. So if you're somebody that's in a hurry, you might need to look up some alternative routes. I've talked about this in some of my other videos, but if you're somebody that lives in Kentucky and you can run over here to the Anderson Ferry, that might be a faster way, for you to jump across the river here and get to where you need to go. There are other bridges here, just a little trickier to navigate maybe if you're not from the area, but definitely doable. I mean, if you live in this Covington-Newport area, it's actually going to make it super convenient for you to be able to jump on these other bridges and avoid the 71-75 bridge. So you have the Roebling Suspension Bridge, which you'll a lot of times see in pictures because it's a really pretty picturesque bridge. One nice thing about Cincinnati is that you have the CVG airport. The airport's only about 15-20 minutes from downtown Cincinnati, which is really convenient. Again, you're going to want to make sure you account for rush hour traffic if you have to be traveling at that time of day, but otherwise travel there should be really easy. There's a couple different ways. If you're coming from the western side of Cincinnati, you can actually take that 275 highway and go around that way through Indiana and get into Kentucky to go to CVG. Most of the time you're going to come down 71 or 75 and cross over that Spence Bridge. So you're just going to have to be aware of the time of day that you're doing that. CVG is a large international airport. They offer several direct flights to different places all around the country. So if you're somebody that travels a lot for work, that's definitely a huge consideration for you to know that. You also have the Dayton Airport, which is about an hour away up in Dayton, Ohio, just north. And then you do have the Lunken Municipal Airport, which is located kind of along the Ohio River on the eastern side of the city. So as we're talking about traveling to and from work, having to fly places if you travel for work, that's going to bring me to my next con of living in Cincinnati, which is the public transportation. Now, while Cincinnati does have a public transportation system, the Metro bus, it might not be as extensive or convenient as other cities have. So it kind of makes owning a car pretty necessary depending on your lifestyle. So you'll see that the commute for a lot of people, like we looked at from the census data, is around 20 to 25 minutes. So most people are not walking or biking or taking public transportation to work. They are driving a car by themselves, or they are carpooling with someone else, which is a very small percentage of people, but some people do choose to do that. The primary way that people are getting to work in the Cincinnati metropolitan area is driving a car. So if you're somebody that doesn't own a car or doesn't want to own a car and wants to ride your bike or walk to work or take public transportation, that's going to kind of limit the areas that you want to live based on where your work is. So just take that into consideration. If you're working downtown and you don't want to drive to work or deal with the traffic or any of that, you might need to look at living in downtown Cincinnati in areas like Over the Rhine or Pendleton. Right there, there's tons of living options there, even right in northern Kentucky, because one of the bridges, you can walk right over to downtown Cincinnati. That's something to consider if you're someone that doesn't have a car. There is a streetcar in downtown Cincinnati. They put that in a few years ago. The streetcar, it really only runs in downtown Cincinnati. So if you live outside of that area, that's not really going to benefit you that much. It may give you a way to find a cheaper parking garage so that you can park there and then you could ride the streetcar down to your office, because parking downtown can get pretty pricey. Most garages are going to be $20 a day sometimes if you're working down there all the time. Sometimes employers will contribute to that or include a deduction of that from your salary. So that's kind of something you want to ask about, because some employers actually do own parking garages attached to their building. So if that's something that you don't have to worry about, then great. So I will say, after a recent trip to San Diego, California, so many people there walk, ride their bikes, or use the public transportation system because they have several different options. It is not like that in Cincinnati. It is very different. You are not going to find as many people walking to work and having walking just as a part of their lifestyle. So if that's something you're really into, then we're going to need to, that's definitely something to discuss, and you're going to need to narrow down the areas that you're considering living in, and if that's going to be something that works for your lifestyle or not. All right, so now that we've covered some of the down parts of living in Cincinnati, let's go to some of the pros, some of the positives, and see Cincinnati has so much to offer. A couple things I'm going to talk about is the cultural scene, the outdoor recreation, the education. So there are a lot of benefits of Cincinnati, Ohio living. So first up, Cincinnati has a rich cultural scene with lots of museums, art galleries, theaters, music venues like Riverbend, festivals. So there are just plenty of entertainment options throughout all of Cincinnati. And, adding to kind of like the scene of living in Cincinnati, you have several professional sports teams in the city, which, depending on if you are a fan of sports or not, that may be a pro or con for you. But most people in the city see it as a pro. You have the Cincinnati Bengals, who have done really well in the last couple years, kind of making a turnaround with the Super Bowl appearance a few years ago. So that's been really exciting for the city. The Bengals and the Reds and FC Cincinnati, the soccer team, they all have relatively new or brand new stadiums, really top of the line. So then you have the Cincinnati Reds, the Redleg. Baseball is America's pastime. So there's always going to be baseball fans no matter where you go. And Cincinnati is no exception for that. People here love their Cincinnati Reds, their Cincinnati Bengals. There are plenty of home game opportunities for you. And even when they're out of town, many local bars and restaurants will still have viewing events and things like that. Reds and Bengals Stadium is located right downtown, right along the Ohio River. Beautiful views. There's parks down there nearby. There's tons of restaurants and things like that along the river there, in between the two stadiums actually. That's called the Banks, and that's an area of newer development that tons of people go down there during games. So even if you don't have tickets to the game, you could still go to one of those places and enjoy the whole atmosphere and being down there by the stadiums. And then our Cincinnati's newest professional team is FC Cincinnati, the soccer team. They've had a great couple seasons here and have a brand new state-of-the-art stadium, and soccer fans are, when I was a kid, there wasn't a professional soccer team here in Cincinnati, and I never really thought anything of it, but soccer fans kind of came out of the woodwork, and people love experiencing and celebrating another professional sports team here in the area. Just the other week I was downtown, and they had all of Washington Park set up. It was their first home game, but they had tons of events and stuff going on for kids and families and you name it. It was just, all of it was so fun, and what a beautiful day they got for it. Which reminds me, kind of another pro is that there are a ton of breweries here in Cincinnati, and people just love that. There's you have Rheingeist, you have Mad Tree, which is Mad Tree's in Oakley, Rheingeist is in OTR. There are so many others. I couldn't even begin to name all of them. And there are still your traditional Sam Adams breweries, places like that right in downtown Cincinnati. And I will say, downtown Cincinnati and over the Rhine, known as OTR, and Pendleton has really seen a revitalization of the area. They have duck pin bowling, they have axe throwing, tons of bars, restaurants, unique shops. It is just exploding with new stuff all of the time, and it is really just a place that a lot of people want to be. Another huge pro of Cincinnati, Ohio living is the outdoor recreation. There is an amazing, expansive park system here in the greater Cincinnati area, from Hamilton County parks, great parks of Hamilton County, to just each individual township having parks. It is definitely something that a lot of time and planning and money have gone into in the city as a whole over the last several years. You have amazing parks that, like the Banks, Smale Park down on the riverfront, from that to Winton Woods, that is just in Mount Airy Forest, tons of acres of hiking. And because you're on the Ohio River, you also have plenty of options for kayaking, boating, cycling. Like there are we have the Flying Pig Marathon. There's definitely no shortage of recreational things that you can be doing here in Cincinnati. Another positive thing about Cincinnati is that you are actually really close to a lot of amazing colleges and universities right here within minutes of downtown Cincinnati. You have the University of Cincinnati, which is located in Clifton. You have Xavier University, which is pretty close to UC. It's also in that area. You have Northern Kentucky University, which is just across the river. You have junior colleges like Cincinnati State Technical College and places like that, different trade schools and things. And you just really have access to some amazing school systems throughout the entire metropolitan area. So the part you've been waiting for, though, is really the top benefits to Cincinnati, Ohio living. And those things are going to be the affordability. Okay, so Cincinnati offers a relatively low cost of living, in comparison with other cities in the United States. According to the Chamber of Commerce, the average home price in 2023 was $261,772. So that is a really affordable house price, especially in the housing market that we are in, which is at peak prices right now at the time of this video. And the other top benefit of Cincinnati, Ohio living are the job opportunities. The city has a diverse economy with opportunities in industries such as healthcare, manufacturing, technology, and education. Cincinnati actually has 5 Fortune 500 companies. Cincinnati's had positive job growth in the last 5 years at 3.1%. All right, so to recap today, there are a lot of pros and cons to living in Cincinnati, Ohio. I personally think that the pros well outweigh the cons, but ultimately that's up to you to decide. Again, if you're looking for some help on navigating Cincinnati, Ohio living, don't hesitate to reach out using the contact information in the description box below. I would be so excited to help you make a move here in Cincinnati, Ohio. If you're from Cincinnati already and you have a pro or con that I missed, I would love to hear about it in the comments below. And don't forget to hit subscribe and tap the bell for notifications if you want to continue to learn more about Cincinnati, Ohio living.